Okay. So today what we have is we have an application type assignment in which we are going to read like short little stories or excerpts about different types of agriculture and try to determine what specific type of agriculture they're talking about. So if you click on the Thursday folder, okay, you click on the agricultural stories, and there are 2 attachments. And the first one, the agricultural stories and review chart, is what you need to put into Notability. The second one, the agricultural stories review chart map, you just need to open. Okay, you'll refer to it, you'll look at it, but you don't actually have to do anything with this document. Okay. So here's what they look like. The stories in the chart look like this. It starts with agricultural descriptions, and then you have a chart to fill out at the end. And then the other attachment, the map, looks like this. All right. So I believe Schoology should be working for everybody. So go ahead and download that assignment. We are going to start it together. Then I'm going to give you some work time on it, and then we're going to come back and go over it.
We download both, right?
Yep. Yeah. The one that you're going to turn in is this one, the one that has the chart on it. This is what we'll be grading. Okay. So you're going to use the map, like you're going to look at the map, but you don't have to put it in the same note. Okay, Elizabeth, you can't see the screen that's being presented. Everybody else can, correct? Maybe for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. So Elizabeth, Brett, maybe try like leaving the Google Meet and then coming back in and seeing if it'll work. Ryan, you as well. Okay, so if you can't see the screen, try leaving the meeting and coming back in. Because it should be up and presenting and ready to go.
I can see it now.
Yeah, we're good now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks for the feedback. Okay. So what we have today is we have 12 descriptions or 12 different things about like different types of agriculture. Okay. And question. Let's see how that worked. Hold on. Somebody raise their hand. Maybe yes, no, maybe so. Okay. So, okay, we have 12 short agricultural descriptions. So like 12 short little stories about different types of agriculture. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be reading over these descriptions and figuring out, are they talking about subsistence agriculture or are they talking about commercial agriculture? And once we figure that out, and then we're going to figure out, well, what's the specific type of agriculture that we're looking for? And like, what's the specific name? And we have all of the types of agriculture down here at the bottom of your chart. You will use each of these types of agriculture once, except for commercial gardening, which we will use that one twice. Okay. Then let's see. And then we figure out where it is located on this map. Okay. Give me a second. Brett emailed me about not being able to get back in. So let me respond to him. Okay. So, okay, the first one. So our first agricultural description, okay, is about Gisela and Aki who live on a farm. On their farm, they raise animals, corn, and hay. Most of the milk that their cows produce is sent to a cooperative for processing into cream, butter, and cheese. Of the 300 cows that live in a large enclosed space and are taken to the milking shed twice a day. The cows are attached to an automatic milking machine that measures the weight of the milk produced by each cow. The milk is collected in a 5,000-gallon refrigerated container. A computer on the farm records the output of each cow. The corn and hay raised on the farm provide some of the feed for cattle during the winter. So, based on that description, okay, would you say that they're talking about a subsistence farm or a commercial farm?
Commercial.
Commercial, right? They're talking about computers and refrigeration and technological stuff. Okay. So, based on now our types of commercial agriculture, dairy, mixed crop and livestock, grain, livestock ranching, Mediterranean, or commercial gardening, what was the type of agriculture that number one was talking about?
Dairy.
Dairy farming, absolutely. Okay, so I would write dairy. Then I would cross off dairy from my list, because I know I'm only going to use it once. So we're done with that one. Okay. Then I take a look at my map. So the map location is going to be probably the hardest part of this assignment. Okay. So here's my overall world map. And I got to figure out, where in the world does dairy farming take place? Okay. If I scroll and look at this map, well, maybe if it'll load. Okay. Dairy farming is this like peachy color, right? So we find this peachy color in the northeastern part of the United States, right up here, a little bit in the Midwestern, so just like up here, and then in the like northern part of Europe up here. So taking a look at my map here, do any of those letters correspond with that like peachy color? So here or up here? What do we think? Okay, what letters correspond with that peach color? Either in like the northeastern part of the United States or in the northern part of Europe.
G and A, kind of.
G, A, maybe F. Let's go take a look again. Okay, so I look here. Okay, F kind of looks like it's like further down maybe a little bit. Maybe F is thinking about this color stuff.
I'd say definitely G, though.
Yeah, definitely G. I would agree with you on that one, right? Because right by Lake Erie, okay, like over in New York, that's all that peachy color. So we are going to write letter G for our map location. Okay. And then we continue on with looking at number 2. All right, so if we take a look at number 2, it says, Jano's day begins before dawn. He walks his village's herd of 60 cattle to a pasture several miles away. There, the animals graze on the short grasses that cover the rolling hillside. He makes sure that the cattle are not stolen or attacked by wild animals. At night, he and the herd return to the village. He drives the cattle into an enclosure made of thorn bush brush. Even though Jano is only 14 and his job is very important to the survival of his village, the cattle have more than food significance. Cattle may be used as a bride price in the arrangement of marriage for the females of the village. So, based on that information, commercial subsistence agriculture.
Substance.
Yeah, subsistence, right? They're talking about villages and bride prices and how important it is for overall survival, things like that. And if we go take a look at our types of subsistence agriculture, we have shifting cultivation, pastoral nomadism, intensive subsistence wet rice, intensive subsistence other, and plantation. Right? When or what type of agriculture are we talking about here? What's our type of subsistence agriculture? He's talking about herding animals. Okay, what do you guys think? What's our type of subsistence agriculture for number 2?
Livestock ranching.
Hey.
Right, but we're talking about subsistence agriculture, right? Livestock ranching is commercial agriculture. So what subsistence agriculture are we talking about?
Is it pastoral
Nomadism? Yeah, absolutely, right? Pastoral nomadism and livestock ranching are very similar. One is just commercial, one is subsistence. Okay, perfect. Pastoral nomadism. And then if we take a look at our map, okay, so pastoral nomadism is this like aqua-y greenish color. Okay, so we see this color across northern Africa, okay, throughout the Middle East, okay, and then through kind of like the central / north central region in Asia. So taking a look at our map with our letters on it, and we're talking about this area all the way through here up to here. What letter corresponds with that location? B, absolutely. So I would put my B right there. Okay, then taking a look at number 3. So, perspiration poured from Ivan as he tried to repair the leaking cylinder. The combine had been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 2 weeks. As he looked across the endless horizon and saw the bending grain stalk waiting to be cut, he imagined it was winter. He longed to feel the icy cold, relentless wind, but he knew realistically that winter was only a few months away. He turned back to his repairs and wondered if the sale of his grain at the mill would bring enough money for a down payment on a new blade for the combine. He really needed a new one, but it would be beyond his reach for many years to come. So, number 3, are we talking about commercial or subsistence?
subsistence.
What's a combine? Do you guys know what a combine is?
Fine. I said the wrong one.
We know
Yeah.
what a combine is.
right? A combine is a tractor. Okay. In commercial farming, we use a huge
Okay.
tractor. Okay. What's our type of commercial agriculture? Mixed crop and livestock, grain, livestock ranching, Mediterranean, or commercial gardening?
Grain.
Grain farming. Okay. So then I would go back down here, cross off grain. Okay, I'd cross off pastoral nomadism from the last one. And now to go look at the map location. Okay, so grain farming is this orange color, right? So we have grain farming kind of here along the Great Plains region, and then also a little bit in Europe. So if we take a look at our, oops, not that one, this map, and we were talking about like here, but there's nothing there. Otherwise here, what letter
A.
corresponds? A. Okay, so I would put the letter A. Then I would continue right along. Take a look at number 4. So Carlos proudly sat on the bluff overlooking the wide expanse of open rangeland. His holdings spread far and beyond the horizon and had been in his family's hands for many generations. He loved the cool breezes of October and watching the cows tend to their newborns. They would have had the whole summer to graze and grow before the colder days in June began. He could hear his sheep off in the distant hills to the west, but the cattle were still his favorite. This year, the sheep would actually bring more money than cattle in the open market since wool prices had skyrocketed. Luckily, Carlos had experimented with several new agricultural techniques developed by the local university. He had also been insightful enough to inoculate his sheep against the parasite that had nearly wiped out other flocks. Okay. Are we talking about commercial or subsistence agriculture here?
Commercial.
Yeah, commercial, right? He's talking about a vast array. This thing had been in his family for generations. He's talking about inoculating his sheep. Do you guys know what inoculation is?
Kind of like a vaccine.
Yeah, exactly, right? Fancy academic term for vaccine. So he was able to vaccinate his sheep. It takes money to vaccinate your animals, okay? So looking at commercial, okay, was he talking about mixed crop and livestock ranching, Mediterranean, or commercial gardening? What's our type
Mixed
of agriculture?
livestock and crop.
Okay. Does he talk about any actual crops though?
No, I was gonna say commercial ranching.
Livestock ranching?
Mhm.
Yeah, right. He's talking about the ranching, right? It was just solely on the animals. Had he started talking about crops and how he feeds his animals with those crops that he grows, then yes, it would be mixed crop, right? But he's just solely talking about his sheep and his cattle. So we are looking at livestock ranching. Okay, so go to my thing, cross it off. Now let's go look at the map location for livestock ranching. Okay, livestock ranching is this yellow color. So we have kind of all along the mountains here, as well as pretty much throughout South America, a little bit in Southern Africa, and then a little bit through kind of Europe / Asia, and then throughout Australia. So let's go take a look here. And okay, this region, nope, that doesn't cover anything. Okay. We looked at a lot of South America, lower part of Africa, that's a no. And this part of Europe, that's a no. Australia was a no. Okay, so what letter do we think corresponds with livestock ranching?
C.
Okay, C. What else? What other letter is in South America?
I.
I. Okay, so let's go take a look at our map again. Okay, C and I. So here is kind of where the letter C was. it might look to be more like in that green area. Okay. So if I come down, yeah, that I'm gonna go with I, right? Because really yellow is the only color for the most part that's located in this part of South America, right? Like in the Patagonia region. Okay. So then on my map, I would go with the letter I. Okay. Then we continue on with number 5. So the large white house, or the large white home adorned with archways and orange tiled roof, sat in the middle of dry rolling hills dotted with fruit trees and vineyards. The heat of the August day was like an oven, but the grapes were rapidly changing color and becoming sweeter with each new day. The harvest would be good this year. The Giovanni family had bottled wine for centuries, and 1997 was going to be a very good year. Their new Zinfandel wine was a huge success last year, and they could hardly keep up with demand. Orders were already arriving from the United States and Australia, and the new production line that was opening in June should speed up the bottling process and lower the costs for the Giovannis. Are we talking about commercial or subsistence for number 5?
Commercial.
Commercial. And what's our type? Mixed crop and livestock, Mediterranean, or commercial gardening?
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. Okay. And then our map location. Okay. Mediterranean is this like brown color. Okay, so a little bit on the coast of the United States, but mainly in the Mediterranean. And in the story, they were talking about orders arriving from the United States and Australia. So we know it's not this one. And we know it's nowhere in Australia. So we're looking at what letter is around the Mediterranean. Okay, we look up here at a map. What's our letter correspondence going to be?
H.
H. Absolutely. Okay. Then moving on to, let me cross off Mediterranean. Okay, moving on to number 6. Okay. Mingo had worked hard all morning planting taro. The hot sun beat down relentlessly on his brown glistening body. Wow, that was graphic. This would be the last crop planted here for many years. Mingo knew the soil would not produce another crop and had already selected a new site for next year's planting. His 6th child would soon be born. Hopefully, this would be his long-awaited son. There would be a feast to celebrate. There would be fish, mangoes, bananas, coconut, and best of all, roasted dog. He picked up his heavy iron tools and began the long 5-mile walk back to his village, daydreaming of the feast to come. Okay, are we talking about commercial or subsistence here?
Subsistence.
Yeah, subsistence. Okay. What do we think our type is? Is it shifting cultivation, intensive subsistence, wet rice, intensive subsistence, other, or plantation?
It's either plantation or let's see. Oh, I can't think. Shifting cultivation.
So shifting cultivation or plantation, right, is what I heard. So plantation is where you have like a big company that owns the farm and then hires migrant workers. Shifting cultivation is the smaller farm, often called slash and burn, right, where you cut the things down, you burn the trees, you plant, and then you repeat the process another year somewhere else. So based on that information, between those two, what do we think it is?
Shifting cultivation.
Yeah, shifting cultivation. Okay. And then taking a look at our map. Okay. Shifting cultivation is this green area. So we have the northern part of South America, and the whole kind of like central part of Africa. So taking a look at this stuff. Okay.
C. It's gonna be
Yeah.
C.
Right? Because we already used B. We already used that one. So we are left with C. Okay. Then I would take my drawing tool and exit out shifting cultivation. Moving on to number 7. Okay. The entire Matsuma family had worked long hours preparing the Sawa for the floody monsoon rains. Hichu Matsuma used his oxen-driven plow a month earlier to ready the fields for planting. Once the rains came, the backbreaking labor of planting the rice seedlings into the flooded Sawa would be done by Akemi Matsuma and the other women from the family. Haichu would return to harvest the rice by hand, once again prepare the fields for a second planting. Hopefully this will feed his family for the year and enough will be left over to sell in the local market. Are we talking about subsistence or commercial?
Subsistence.
Right? They're talking about manually planting stuff. So are we talking about intensive subsistence wet rice, intensive subsistence other, or plantation?
Wet rice.
Yeah, right. They're talking about rice farming. Intensive subsistence wet rice. Okay. So based on my map location, I go take a look, and wet rice is this like pinky color. Okay, so I have the eastern part of Asia, a little bit in India.
It's gonna be like D or E.
Yeah, D or E. So let's take a look at the difference between the two. Okay, D is further south, E is further north. Let's go take a look at our map again. Okay, we see that there's a break here between the two colors. So which letter represents the pink color?
D.
E. Perfect. Then I would take my pen and I would cross off intensive subsistence wet rice. Okay, number 8. Assam walked slowly behind his oxen as the wooden plow cut furrows into the dry, dusty earth. The wheat and barley crops he was about to plant would mean survival for his family. His oldest son had already left for the city with his new wife because there was no food for them here. Assam was considering planting hashish to supplement his income. He knew this would bring in much needed cash and perhaps allow him to purchase some fertilizer and some higher yielding seeds. He watched his 2 youngest children die from fevers last year. He knew that if they had been well fed properly, they probably would have survived. At least now they were with Allah. Okay, so number 8, are we talking about subsistence or commercial?
Sub.
Yeah, subsistence. And are we talking about intensive subsistence other or plantation?
Other.
Yeah, intensive subsistence other. So based on our map here, right, intensive subsistence other is that purple area. We already kind of looked at it last time. What letter are we going to choose?
E.
E. Okay. Cross off. Taking a look at number 9. Okay. The large white colonial house was perched in the middle of hundreds of tea plants that carpeted the rolling hillsides. As the occupants of the large white house sipped their morning tea from imported china cups, they viewed a stream of women walking in the fields. Women with burlap bags hanging down their backs moved silently through the narrow paths between the bushes, expertly selecting just the newest leaves from each plant. Others quietly waited in line for their payment, which would be spent mostly in the company store for yard goods and other necessities. Commercial or subsistence? What do we think?
Subsistence.
Yeah, subsistence. Because what's our type? Our type of subsistence farming. What are we left with?
Plantation.
Plantation, right? So while a big wealthy company or family owns the farm, all of the work is conducted by migrant labor, and which makes it subsistence. It's all human labor that is conducting this type of farming. So taking a look at the map, okay, plantation farming is the blue color. We have some in Central America, along the coasts, and that's kind of really about it. So,
The letter's gonna be L.
yeah, the letter is going to be L, right? Because if we look over here, okay, there is plantation farming in the island countries in the Indian Ocean. Absolutely. Okay, then I would cross off plantation farming and know that we've done subsistence. So which means the next three are all going to be commercial. So number 10. A sea of floating red berries covered the land as a giant machine scooped them up, boxed, and stacked them. The boxes would then travel by conveyor belt to the waiting trucks and within a few minutes or hours arrive at a processing plant. The Indians probably never envisioned this several hundred years ago when they introduced the Pilgrims to those first sour berries. Today we use those berries to adorn our Thanksgiving tables and eat them in breads, relishes, and jellies. The juice from these berries is often blended with that of other fruits and is readily available fruit juice mixes with names such as cran apple, cran grape, and cran raspberry. Okay. We know we're talking about commercial, right? So that's all we have left. What's our type of commercial agriculture here? Mixed crop and livestock or commercial gardening?
Commercial gardening.
Yeah, commercial gardening. Right, and when we look at our map, commercial gardening is this bright orange color. So we see it along the coast here. Okay. And if we go take a look, what would we argue? What letter? Would that be along the coast of the eastern United States?
K.
Yeah, okay, right? Because we look here in all of Florida, right? It's commercial gardening, and that's what they're talking about. Okay, and we're going to use commercial gardening twice, right? So we already used it once. So going back to look at 11. KH Poultry Farm occupies 2,000 acres of land. The farm consists of 3 large poultry houses, each about 120 yards long and 4 feet wide, and 1,800 acres of corn. Each poultry house holds about 33 to 35,000 chickens that live out their 8-week life in a totally controlled man-made environment. The owners of KH Poultry Farms live in a big house 7 miles away from the poultry grow houses. The houses have totally automated feed and watering systems and a large fan mist system that serves as an air conditioner in the hot weather. The owners of KH Poultry Farm have a contract with a poultry company that provides the chicks and processing facilities. The farmer is paid based on the market price in 2 major East Coast cities, as well as the weight of the birds at the time of slaughter. The final destination for the processed birds is fast food restaurants across the country. Okay. We know we're talking about commercial, right? We're talking about mixed crop and livestock or commercial gardening here. What's their type of agriculture?
Livestock.
Yeah, mixed crop and livestock. We're talking about raising chickens. And then our map location for mixed crop and livestock, this lighter orange color, okay, which is going to be in the central part of the United States. And what letter does that correspond to?
F.
F. Absolutely. Cross it off. And now we're on to the last one. So the ads directing people to Riverside Farms have been placed in the paper and written on big signs posted along the major highways. Robert and Jane Jones had marked the rows the night before, and this morning had gotten up very early to await the first wave of strawberry pickers. Migrant workers had already picked and boxed 3 other fields of strawberries that were being shipped to nearby major metropolitan areas today. The pick your own was Jane's idea. She was hoping that the venture would be quite profitable for Riverside Farms. As a matter of fact, they were thinking about setting up a roadside stand to sell other fruits and vegetables produced on their farm. So the last one, we know it's commercial. What's our type of agriculture?
Commercial gardening.
Yeah, commercial gardening. And what is our last map location that we have not used yet? What do you guys think? What's our last map location that we have not used?
A.
Nope, we used A. A was up here.
J.
J. Oh, I didn't say A. J is correct. Okay, then I cross
Oh,
off.
yeah. There's barely any orange there, but you can see it.
Yeah, right. You gotta like super zoom in. Yeah, it's down here. So there we have it for our agricultural chart and stories. Okay. What
Sorry,
I
Google Meet kicked me out.
That's okay. So what we have for here's your completed assignment. Okay, make sure you guys have this all down and completed. Okay, you will turn in your completed chart and you will get points for turning it in. Okay, and the important part of this assignment, so what you need to know is on your test on Tuesday for Unit 4, you will have a map that is similar to this, and you will be given a location, like letters, and you will say what type of agriculture is practiced here. Right? So it's like you'll be given like the letter H and say what type of agriculture takes place in this area. You'd be like, oh, duh, Mediterranean. That's the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. Or you'd be given the letter I, asked which type of agriculture takes place here. And you'd say livestock ranching. So questions on your Unit 4 test that directly relate to the map location and the type of agriculture in this assignment. Okay, so it's important that you have this information down. Questions? Okay, again, turn in your completed chart to the agricultural stories and map review assignment you will get points for submitting the completed assignment.